Enthusiasm.
You're such a dick.
It is our first day and
As a married couple.
De Alto Cedro voy para Marcané, llego a Puerto voy para Mayarí. De Alto Cedro voy para Marcané, llego a Puerto voy para Mayarí. De Alto Cedro voy para Marcané, llego a Puerto voy para Mayarí. Cedro voy para Marcané, llego a Puerto voy para Mayarí.
it's our first day in La Havana
Nice pronunciation.
in Cuba. Thank you. I learned from the best.
I'm proud of you.
We walked to La Plaza de La Revolucion today.
Yes, that's good.
It was about 2 kilometers there, 2 kilometers back. And you pointed out a bunch of things, and I just wanted to highlight some of the things that you saw. And one of the main things was the infrastructure. Now, what did you say about the infrastructure of Havana?
Sucks. So everything's in a state of decay. The buildings, they look like the remains of a nuclear blast.
It looks like it's deteriorating from within. The crosswalks didn't work.
Dude,
The crosswalk signals did not work.
I didn't see any fucking signals. Like, how do people who drive here on a daily basis actually manage not to crash? One of the things that impressed me the most when I went into the US for the first time was the fact that everything has its sign. Like, not just on the street, but like you're walking inside a commercial plaza or whatever, and everything has a label.
Before we got to the actual plaza, we saw the mausoleum. And what did you say about the mausoleum?
Muslim. You mean the guy who looks like a Muslim?
No, the mausoleum.
Oh, the Muslim. Oh my god. It looks ominous. It looks evil. It's this huge tower of concrete that stands out from the rest of the urban landscape, and it's in the middle of this esplanade surrounded by all these buildings, images of Che Guevara, Camilo Cienfuegos. I don't know, man, it at least from my perspective, you know that I'm not a big fan of communism, it felt evil, especially at night. Like, if you look, like, the lights are turned on and they kind of look like torches. It looks like the fucking Eye of Sauron from Lord of the Rings, like constantly watching over.
After we saw the mausoleum, we went to that big square. Basically, it was Che Guevara, Camilo Cienfuegos, and then you had the mausoleum in the back.
Camilo Cienfuegos was one of the ideologists of, not just of the Cuban Revolution. He's kind of an important dude. He helped shape many of Fidel's actions. In fact, you have these images of Che and Camilo, and Che's image has his like most famous phrase, hasta la victoria por siempre. And Camilo's image has another of his famous phrases, which is vas bien Fidel, which is like, it's encouragement for Fidel, like, you're doing good, Fidel, just keep it up.
Camilo Cienfuegos was a Marxist and not necessarily a communist.
That's a hard one to answer. But as we discussed before, you can be a Marxist without necessarily being a communist. Right? Latin America has a bunch of philosophers, sociologists, anthropologists who have Marxist thoughts, but they're not communists. The problem with the close relationship between Marxism and communism is that for the US, in regards to foreign policy, if you are a Marxist sympathizer, it must mean that you are a communist.
Now, we were in the square. It was a large open square. You had communist paraphernalia all around this giant square.
That big empty space, it's called an esplanade. If you look into it, Mexico has one big empty esplanade called El Zócalo. And the main purpose of that big empty space is to fill it with people, like a bunch of people, thousands. The places that come to my mind almost immediately are North Korea, Mexico, Nazi Germany, any place that has had a warlord at the head of his government, or a dictator, or a president that is beloved by the people. The purpose of filling them with people is it's pretty much a display of power towards your political opponents, towards any kind of foreign influence that might want to topple your government. It's just to show them that, you know what, if you do something, I have the support of the people. This display of power, like, you know, having this explanation full of people to show that you have the support of the people, it's actually misleading, because most of the times those who are in power, they pay with food and something to drink to the poorest people in the country to show up, and they obviously show up because they're hungry. And then to the outside view, it looks like, holy crap, that guy has the power of the people. Look at how many people he was able to reunite. That helps to create a cult of personality. Now, a cult of personality happens when all of the power befalls, all of the power of a nation or of a political entity defaults on just one person, the beloved leader. And when you manage to attain a cult of personality, you become essentially a dictator, because you can do whatever you want and you can get away with it.
How did you feel before you came to Cuba compared to your first day here?
Before we came in here, I thought that they will have an active, maybe they do, we just haven't realized it, that they had an active, like an ongoing surveillance on pretty much everyone, bugged telephone lines, people on the streets looking out for dissidents and whatnot. And so far I haven't felt anything like that. It just feels like a developing nation. All those checkpoints, they might be staged, or they might just be abandoned.
What was your biggest takeaway from your first day?
That there's different Cubas. You have the Cuba of the hardworking, normal people who actually struggle. Like, we couldn't even find a fucking bottle of water. So you have that Cuba, and then you have this other Cuba composed of all these government officials, all of these ideologists who keep this fully ongoing, this revolution against the imperialistic, capitalistic nations. They kind of have a point, but at what cost? Like, they are just fucking up all these hardworking people. I'm not a big fan of ideology. It makes me sad to think that a bunch of Cuban people are just struggling and suffering because of what a bunch of ideologists thought that will be the best way of government.